let's get started. Mukesh, if you're happy for me to jump into the first question. Yeah. Okay. And please ask questions along the way. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, Kim, if you like, I can share about myself so that, just the audience can see where I come from and
absolutely.
And yeah, if you're okay with that, just a couple of minutes I'll take and
go ahead.
And
yeah.
Then I will answer those technical questions all about book accounting, tax, and I'll any
Perfect.
questions you have, I'll answer that. How's that? Yeah.
Lovely. Sounds perfect.
See, I was born in a very small town in India, and where my dad was a franchisee of a very successful logistics company, and so the money was good, and the life was good. But one day, this franchisor and it means my dad was without the income, and then he started looking for the businesses, but he couldn't find very similar sized businesses. So one of my uncle, can you hear me, okay?
Yes, you're dropping out a little bit there.
Yes,
I can hear you. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, one of my uncles suggested that we should start their own logistics company, and that's what they did. But they didn't realize that this new business needed different mindset, different skill set, which my dad didn't have, and the capital, which he didn't have. Then, but they started, and some days my dad was behind paying wages, and the overheads of this business were more than the previous one, and that pushed my mom into the mindset of anxiety, and because that was a reflection of how she was brought up in an environment where her dad wanted a son. That was a culture there with my grandmom, and they gave birth to 7 sisters in a row, like 8 daughters. So this is how she was brought up, where the culture was having a son, where my grandmother then got into that severe anxiety and that scarcity mindset, and this is how all those the 8 sisters were brought in. And when this happened, my mom couldn't handle that way. That even she was supportive, she was loving, but when it happens, that when you see that there's a day-to-day challenges in the business and the that financial freedom we talk about, and I couldn't help much when I was also working as a lost young man in India that time. So one of my friends then suggested that I could that I go out overseas for to just my career, or suggested that I come to Australia. Then I came here, started my accounting, and I obviously, needless to say, I didn't have the savings, but my family mortgaged the home. So I completed my master's here, and after completing CPA, fast forward a few years, then I started my own accounting company, and my clients connected with me because I could see the pain, like what I witnessed with my mom and dad here, similar kind of pain. Again, the business challenges, how to and the personal challenges, and this is why I started growing, because I was helping, I was connecting, but at still, those 3 reasons why I started accounting company were that the high failure rate of the small businesses. Number 2, that when businesses come to the retirement stage, they do not have enough funds to fund the lifestyle they want at the end of the business life during the retirement. Number 3 was that accountants were focusing mainly on compliance and like kind of reporting, rather than helping small businesses create the profitable, sustainable business. So in 6 years time, from 2012 to 2017, we achieved those things for our client, and I was still feeling unfulfilled. I was still feeling like a lost or stuck, like what do I want to do? And then one day, I took a pause, and I invited a couple of my team members into the conference room. We started scribbling on the whiteboard, thinking that what we're doing here, why we're here. And by doing this whole conversation, self-assessment, reading, listening, I came up with this word called serving. And that was an aha moment. And that got me into that, looking at for our values, what are our core values, what's the purpose. And then I found out that my fulfillment is in fulfilling other people. My fulfillment is helping people get unstuck, because I spent my whole life stuck and lost. And then I found out that's the life I'm looking for, where I will, help like my dad and the people where I belong to help them unstuck, help them share what I know, so that they can create the life they want, they can achieve the goals, so that they don't take years where I, to get there where I am now, or to help them start the business to achieve what they want to achieve. So this is how I, found my purpose, and which I'm sharing to the book as well, that this is the system I found which helps me, being that on the path, same path where you are, and be on the journey, face the challenges, and just take one day at a time, and see what we can do together, and how I can share what I know and learn from all of you. So that's my journey. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really incredible story, and it explains a lot to me. I didn't know that first part when we talked earlier. That explains a lot to me why you're doing what you're doing. So yeah, I think that's a wonderful foundation to come from.
Thank you.
So I'm tapping away, waving at people as they join. So please don't be distracted. I'm tapping the screen, saying hi to everybody. Thanks for being here, everyone who's just joined. Well, I think from there we can jump into our first question, but I'd like to circle back at the end and talk a little bit more about that, if that's okay. Yeah, thanks, Shell. Great story. Thank you for sharing. Says Shell Paul. Yeah, agreed, Shell. Okay, so the first lot of questions I've got are around expenses and deductions, and I think everyone's probably on the edge of their seat, like, give us the answers. So this is obviously going to be broad because everyone's situation is different. So please seek some more advice. If this doesn't answer the question that you have, please seek more advice, and you can do that through NexZen Accounting. And Mukesh and his team are happy to answer any questions that you have. He's very generously offered to come back to anyone who has a question. So don't feel like this is your only chance. You will have access to Mukesh throughout the week or whenever. So first of all, what expenses can be deducted? What are the expenses as a support worker that you can deduct?
Kim, so I tell you the generic rule of how A2C, that what can we claim, what we can't. As a business owner, you can claim all expenses which are directly related to earning your income. So that's a generic definition. So if you are spending money to earn income in the business, you can claim. And if it is reimbursed, if your expenses are reimbursed by, say, NDIS or someone, so you can't claim generally those expenses because you didn't pay, or, it means like someone has paid to you those expenses. Or sometimes you can do, two-step process that you claim those expenses, but you also declare income from, if you have received money from, say, NDIS or someone else, for example. So so now expenses, I give you the top 10 expenses for NDIS businesses that where people spend a lot, like most of the money. Top 10 are, the first one are, especially in this industry, you're spending money on the client activities. If you're taking clients out, you're spending money on those activities. And also you spend money on meal expenses, for example, for the client. So those expenses are deductible if you're spending those money for the client. And there are some rules. If you need to, say, be in that activity where you have no choice to be outside, just be in that activity. There's sometimes, support worker need you there. For example, if you want to go for a movie and to take support worker, and you have to be there, even though whether it's not your entertainment, you helping them, you taking them there. So those expenses will be tax deductible because you have to be there. So this is the example, but again, we can go more case by case basis. So that's a client activity. And second expense, big expense is the payroll expenses, for example. So whether it's wages, super, work cover, Q leave, all those expenses are tax deductible for the business. Third one are motor vehicle expenses. So if you are traveling, if you're taking off clients, even if you're going for clients meeting, finding the clients, research, any reason that you are using your motor vehicle to make your earning through the business, those expenses are tax deductible. And the rental expenses, if you're spending money on rent, leases, that are legit expenses, so you can claim those. Subscriptions are another major ones, that if you're spending money on software, say Zero, so many software we need to as an NDS business, shift care, roasting software, payroll software, any software that you are spending money on, they are tax deductible as well. Training cost, tax deductible. Insurances, tax deductible. Again, all those telephone, internet, travel, uniform. So the idea is that all your expenses, what you're spending to earn income, they are legit expenses. You can, claim. There is a part where you may be spending, for example, telephone, internet, or the car or the vehicle that you're using for private uses versus business uses. So if you're using motor vehicle for private as well as business, so then you need to apportion that. Only the business use, will be claimable. I hope that answers.
So, for example, I've just had a question come through from Ms. Nairi. Thanks, Ms. Nairi. What about the service for the vehicle? So if you're saying, let's assume that the people who are listening in the first instance, let's assume that they're all sole traders. So would be looking at, if you're using 30% for business, 70% for private, could you claim 30% of that service, of the car service? Yeah, great.
So you maintain the logbook. And if you're maintaining the logbook, there's different methods, like, for example, cents per kilometer method and logbook method. If you're maintaining the logbook, and then if you found out through logbook that you're using 30%, the car for 30% business, for example, so then you combine all your expenses, even the finance costs as well, like interest, for example, you can claim part of that, like the 30%. You can claim the depreciation, you can claim regio, you can claim insurance. So 30% of the overall cost you can claim if you're using the logbook method. Yeah,
right. Okay, that's really interesting. And just for me, if I was in this position, I would definitely be seeing an accountant, because it sounds a little bit complicated. Like it sounds more than I would be willing to do myself. But of course, there's always people who will do their own tax. So I just think that's very good information. But make sure that you're keeping proper records. It sounds like that's going to be a key part. And how do people prove these expenses, and which receipts should they be keeping for the expenses that they have?
See, as a business owner in Australia, it's important to keep records for up to 5 years. That, again, there are different legislation for different kind of records. And I share you the three main kind of records are income and expense records, asset and equipment records, and the employment and tax records. So these are the three main kind of records you can categorize into. And also, when you look at, there are 5 stages that ATO wants you to keep record of. When you're starting the business, when you're starting, you need all capital expenses receipt, for example, all the computers, internet, or like the car, all those things. So you're going to keep those. Number 2, when you're running the business, so all your expenses you do, you're going to keep those expenses receipts for 5 years, right? Number 3, when you're changing the business, for example, sometimes you move from one entity to the other entity, you move things around, still got to keep those records. That means how the car, for example, you transfer from sole trader to the company, for example. So you got to keep those records. Number 4 is when you sell the business. So make sure all the records are there when you're selling the business as well. So again, that's also important. Number 5, when you're closing the business. So it's not just sometimes people say, oh, we only need to keep when we're running the business. But when you look at ATO, they want you to keep for 5 stages, like from starting, running, changing, selling, and closing, all stages. that you're going to keep the record. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And in general, for somebody who's working for a company, how should they keep track of their receipts? Is it just as simple as taking a picture or keeping them in a receipts app for the end of the year to hand over to somebody like you?
Yeah, nowadays there's a digital apps. If you're an employee versus if you're a business, so there's different requirements. For example, when you're an employee, you may not have access to all the apps, but software. Like for example, when you're a business owner, you have Xero, QuickBooks, all those things. You can keep all the records there. When you're an employee, you can take the pictures because ATO accepts digital as well as paper. As long as the digital records can be produced, printed in paper format, they are in English language. ATO is happy with that, and these days it's better because then once these things are scanned, as it used to be, when you get the receipt, it fades and you have to photocopy and all that. So now, thanks to technology, you can just scan it or take the pictures, keep it in your. If you're an employee, keep it in a folder. If you are a business owner, use the better or the software.
Oh, we've just
along with the transaction.
out there, Mukesh.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sorry, we just dropped out there a little bit. Yes, I've got you. Yep. I think yes. So yeah, use digital. That's really interesting that they'll accept digital these days. So that's fantastic. Yep. I've just had a couple of questions come in. Anne-Marie, hi Anne-Marie. She's asking, is this the same for sole traders? So I think we sort of answered that. Yes, it's the same for sole traders, keeping all those records and the same types of deductions. Obviously, you're going to have more deductions if you're a sole trader because you've got essentially the business expenses of running your own business, even if it's just you.
Yeah, because when you're a sole trader, you still see you as a business. Whether you're a sole trader, still you're a business compared to when you're an employee. Because when you're an employee, there are very limited, kind of deductions available. When you're a business owner, there's a broad range of tax deductions that are available.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
So if you're sorry, go ahead.
One major that people normally ask this question. I think one of those, I can't read all the comments, but one of the questions I'll share that people, when you're an employee, when you go from work home to work, that's not deductible when you're an employee. But when you're a business, you're going to the client, and from if you're working from home, for example, at the home office, so that will be a scenario that your office at home and you're going to the client, that will be tax deductible. Whereas when you are an employee from home to your office, it's not tax deductible, for example. So as a business owner, there's a lot more opportunities to claim that deduction. But when we go one by one, we can look at each scenario, whether what's deductible, what's not.
Yeah, I think so. Nikki, hi Nikki Davis. She's asked a question that it comes up a lot, and some of it sort of crosses over into that NDIS space of what the NDIS is willing to pay versus what's tax deductible versus if you're a business. And I think all of that gets confused. So we might leave that one, but we can say, Nikki, if you're a sole trader, essentially running your own business, yes, you can claim those kilometres. If you're employed by a company, that's going to be more complicated, and the answer is probably no, but it's worth getting in touch with someone like Mukesh to really get the answer to that, because it's not just one simple answer.
Yeah, and just I can just share one thing there. If you're receiving income from NDIS, and that will be considered as an income, and when you're spending money on vehicle, that will be considered as expenses. So there are two different kind of like when you look at the legislation on income will work differently, on expenses will work differently. Does that make sense? So what you're receiving, that's the income. And when you're spending, that's expense. So if you're claiming, we're talking, it's a different rule. You can't just, the whole amount, it's not apple to apple. So it can be the same amount, it can be different amount. Yeah. But one thing is income, other thing is expense. Yeah?
Yes, that's right. I think that's where it gets confused. Yeah. Some Rivendell Designs, I know that's not your name, is asking, claiming kilometres travelling between participants. And I think that's probably, again, if you're being paid by your company, then no, you've already been paid for that. But if you're a sole trader and you're travelling in between, then yes, you can claim that. Would that be accurate?
Yes. Yeah. As a sole trader, you consider that, all travel for business is tax deductible. All travel for business is tax deductible. Whether you are traveling from one participant to other, or you're doing something else for the business, even if you go for buying a stationery, that is also tax deductible because you're doing that to earn the business income. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I suspect that that's cleared up a lot for people. And you said training and education, these costs are deductible, so it doesn't have to be an RTO course. It can be a course like Sparks Academy. That's tax deductible if it pertains to your work.
Yeah. If it's directly linking to, again, there's two kind of expenses could be in the training. But let's see if it's not capital expense, but it's more like a running cost. Like, for example, if you doing kind of, as you say, some courses which are upgrading, which helping you increase your income, and then that will be tax deductible. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Wonderful. Thank you. I'll skip down to the next lot of questions around tax. So the first part there is, what are the consequences of not declaring all my income?
See, if you're not declaring income, first of all, it's not legal from an ATO perspective. They can give you, they can charge you financial penalties because it's not legal to not declare all the income. And they can even, once they find out, they can even charge you interest on unpaid tax, because once the tax is completed, they can charge you interest on that. Then if you do a fraud, like as a deliberate fraud, then it can have even significant penalties on that, because ATO has a very sophisticated system. As ATO has a lot of resources. Now the technology is given ATO that power. They can data match, pre-filling. Even they receive the information from the banks and super funds and properties and so much, and it's increasing day by day. So it's always in the best interest of the client that they share all the income. And if sometimes mistake can happen, error can happen, then ATO is very generous on that. ATO gives the opportunity for to clients to amend the tax return if there is some error happen, for example. So yeah, again, it's we shouldn't have even a second thought, should we declare all income or not? I would say. Yeah.
You're not going to get away from the ATO. They're going to get you. What sort of best practices should people follow throughout the year to make doing their tax easier at the end of the year? You got some top tips for that?
Yeah. See, I always recommend just keep your detailed records. Keep during the year, not just wait for the end of the year, or now I need to collect everything. Just keep this practice, consistent practice. Other thing I advise that always keep separate bank account for the business account. I say, you should keep minimum 2 accounts, but three is good. So the first is main account, where you collect the income and you spend money from. Second one is your savings account, where you can, save the ATO tax amount, GST, super, all those things, so that you know that this is a compliance money, that's not your money. And third, nowadays, I recommend having a bank account for your online purchase account, because this is so many scams happen, and we give our bank accounts details to the subscription companies, software companies, and so many companies. And if we give them an account detail where we only keep, say, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, not the whole, like the main account details. So the chances, again, we just keep making sure that our risk is, a little bit less riskier when we sharing that online purchase account. So these are 3 accounts. Just keep it separate and connect with your software, so that all the transactions are kind of captured in the system. So that's that. Number 3 is a logbook. So you can have keep the logbook for travel, so that how you're spending the how you're traveling, and so that you can claim the maximum as much as possible. Other thing is business versus private use, making sure any other thing, like, for example, using phone or internet or anything that you think it's a business as well as personal. So make sure you use a method, a diary or something where you can proportion that. Making sure knowing that dates, that when are your compliance is due. Even accountants have got best systems now that they are very proactive, and they know, even they remind clients as well. But still, it's a good idea to keep your dates, that when are the best is due, when are the payroll due, all those things. So that helps. If you keep doing this little practices, a lot of we can like proactively manage our own compliance, for example. Yeah.
I think, yeah, the three account idea, especially if you've just started as a sole trader and maybe you're thinking about bringing an extra person on, having that separated from the very beginning and starting out as you mean to go on is a good idea, especially keeping that money aside that's not yours, that you are going to have to give to the ATO or to, if you're paying super for somebody, keeping that separate from your main account will save you a lot of headaches. And also, yeah, great tip for keeping an account for subscriptions as well. That's true. You can end up with a lot of capital sort of moving around in your day-to-day account, and you really are just handing over those details to a lot of different companies. So yeah, that's excellent tip. Thank you. I'm gonna be doing a couple of things tomorrow. I've had a couple of questions come in here. Nikki Davis, yes, you're asking about tax deductions. Your accountant says it depends on if an auditor considered that your home was used for business. I think this is a question that probably would be great to just pop in an email to Mukesh, and then he can go through that in more detail. And if you're comfortable sharing the answer with us at a later date, we would love that as well, Nikki. So the next one, what happens if you forget to take a photo of your receipts? Can you use bank statements for the receipts?
See, what ATO, I always share this to my clients. ATO is a system. They are not sitting there to look at each receipt or each thing, but there is a system. If you are doing 99% right things, if you don't have one or two receipts, it's all okay. However, as a system, we should keep the receipts, and I think it's a $75. If you're spending amount around $75, you must keep the receipt. Less than 75, you can, again, sometime, if you miss that receipt, it's okay. From ATO perspective, some relaxation there. Other thing, what ATO says is that, if you go to fuel station now, and I had this, question as well. If you go to now a fuel station, who knows that whether we bought the fuel or something else? And this is why, to prove ATO that, see, we bought the fuel, we didn't, buy something else, for example, lollies or food. So, for example, so to prove that that the expenses are legit, it's in our best interest that we have the receipts to prove that, say, this was the fuel expenses, and that's why I'm claiming. So, and again, when you look at ATO, the assessment is self-assessment. So we assess as a client, as a taxpayer, that this is the legit expenses. Then ATO will, if ATO says it's good, then it's good. If they have any question, they always ask that, clarification. And if we say that this is the honest, that we have been honest, this is our fuel receipt, we spend money on fuel. And if you're missing one or two receipts, ATO will be okay with that. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like, it's not going to be the end of the world, especially for a small sole trader, but it's going to work in everyone's favor to just get in the habit of just taking that picture of a receipt. And I'm guilty as well. I need to be more in that habit. All smartphones these days, you can move your photos around into different albums. So just having a receipts album in your smartphone, click, drag, done. But it's just building that habit can be difficult.
Yeah. Nowadays, again, as you said, it's a habit thing. Once we do that, it makes life easier.
Yeah, that's right. Miss Nairi wants to know, what happens if you don't lodge for 3 years?
See, again, as an individual, as a business owner, we feel ourselves that there's a load on our head if you're not completing any task, for example. So the tax return is no different than any other pending task, that when we don't do it, stresses us. That's number one. Number two is, from ATO perspective, they do charge, penalties. There are fines there, because ATO wants everyone to kind of lodge the returns on time. ATO is still generous. If we complete our tax on time, sometimes if we don't have money or something, they offer the payment plans. And accountants are there, like us. We are here to listen you out. We help you out with curiosity and empathy. We, whatever you need the support, we're here for. and we are the the bridge between ATO and you. So
Yep.
if you have any reason, any issues, we we can help you out, answer your question. And if we need to tell ATO that this is something, a issue, a problem, at least then you have touch base. But for some reason that you are late, it happens, and just reach out, and we will, we don't do scare campaign. We will listen you out with curiosity and empathy. We will try to contact ATO on your behalf that this happened, and we are very genuinely are late. It's not deliberate our intention. So the idea is to do it ASAP, and if you're late, we are here to help you out there.
Nairi says it's due to a HEC step. So it sounds, Nairi, like you probably need to get onto the ATO or onto an accountant to contact the ATO on your behalf pretty quick. So do it sooner rather than later. Don't put it off anymore. Just do it. Do it tomorrow. Okay, I'll leave those questions. I think we're up to date on the questions being asked live. Superannuation. How much should be contributed, and how can sole traders do that for themselves?
See, when you are currently it's 11.5% for when you're paying employees, then you got to pay 11.5% of your gross wages into the super account, nominated super account. And for sole traders, they can, they can also, it's not mandatory, but they can voluntarily deposit super into their super account, and they need to again inform ATO that they are doing it so they can get the tax deduction on that. And and then again there's a rules about how much they can do, how super, like for example 27,500, and that's the maximum limit per year. Again, that changes, that may change from a legislation perspective. And so that's how you can kind of build your super. And ATO recommends that, but again, talk to your financial planner how they want advise you as well, because super is also part of your overall wealth generation strategy as well.
Is it mandatory for a sole trader to be contributing to their super fund, or are people is there a chance people are not doing that?
Sole traders don't have that. It's not mandatory for them, but for not for sole trader, but when you are in company, then things change. So worth thinking about if you're working for yourself and you're not putting that money aside, and it's not going into your super fund the way that it is when you're working for a company. It might seem like just a little bit of money now, but for your future, it's worth thinking about. And as Mukesh said, he's an accountant, not a financial advisor, so consult a financial advisor about what that's going to look like for your future if you are a long-term sole trader. You're right. Financial.
The two don't meet.
Like a financial planner, they mainly kind of a like a license to advise on super shares and all those investment strategy, etc. From us, we look into the the tax treatment of that, all the spending, whether it's a super or any kind of expenses you do through the business. So we look into what are the tax treatment, what are the tax strategies, and then we can liaise with the financial planner how they advise on overall investments, etc.
So together, with an accountant and a financial planner, that's a great way to start planning for what your future is going to look like. GST, when does a support worker need to register for GST?
From again ATO legislation perspective, so you don't need to be registered for GST until you reach $75,000 a year turnover, like as the income, the gross income. When you have more than $75,000 income, you must be registered for GST. And even as an NDIS business, as an NDIS support worker business, your sales means like your services are GST free. You still need to be registered for GST when your income is more than $75,000 per year. And when you look at now NDIS industry, I recommend even my clients that you can go for the voluntarily GST registration as well. It's a good idea because see, your sales are GST free, mean like your services are GST free. You're not going to pay any tax to ATO. However, by registering for GST, you can claim GST on eligible expenses. For example, if you spend say $5,000 in a year on eligible expenses like fuel, internet, phone, etc. So it means 10% of that expenses is a GST, and which if you are registered, you can only claim then. Otherwise, you can't claim, and that's a good idea. Yeah, there's no disadvantage.
Yes.
There's like you can. It's a good idea to claim those expenses. Yeah.
So it should be sort of just a standard step. If you're going to start out as a sole trader, just register, and then you're able to claim that GST back for everything, because that does add up to a lot over the year. What you pay out.
Yeah. So it's a good idea.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I just want to open up to everybody watching for any other questions. Has anybody got any questions that they've been sort of sitting on or not sure? Just throw them in the comments there, and we can try and answer them. And as I said at the start, Mukesh has very generously offered to answer any questions that you might have. If you get in touch with NexZen Accounting, you can email through to those guys, and they'll answer each question as clearly as they can, given that it's the NDIS and so.
Kim, I would also, while we're here after the question, I would like to share this, how can businesses launch their business even while they're starting? There's so many people maybe listening who want to start, or maybe who want to, maybe they feel like their business is not set up properly. I would a little bit share that as well.
Oh, fantastic! Yes,
and that may be helpful as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so, please go ahead, and I'll keep an eye on the questions as you're talking, and we can circle back around if we have more questions. Yeah, please go ahead.
See, I've written the book on 7 steps. So that 7 steps are universally based on universal principles where you can use to achieve anything you want. And I'm using those 7 steps to help small business owners, including sole trader companies, to achieve financial freedom and a fulfilled life. And so even though those 7 steps, I use it, which I'm sharing in the book, is basically on a life perspective. But now today I will customize that how can you use it when you talk about if I want to launch a business. And even if I have to start my own business, I follow those 7 steps like this, and I share you. See, step 1 is be grateful. So whether you're coming from an employment and you want to start your own, or whether you have already in the business and you want to make it a little bit bigger or different, or maybe you are having challenges because it's your first time business, I would still say just be grateful about that. We have an opportunity, and there is a need which we can play a very, very important role in this community. That it's like the very first step is be grateful, and we will look into how we sort out all the challenges in step 2 to 7 in one by one. But the first thing is we have an opportunity. ATU is generous, where they give us the opportunity to get an ABN, and we can start our journey. That's the very first thing. Second thing I share about is writing your own fulfillment vision, aligning your fulfillment vision, which means that the main message there is having a purpose. Why are you starting the business? Why are you in the business? And then aligning, other 9 elements towards the business. When you align your activities, behavior, habits, beliefs, values, character, and principles, when you align those things on the purpose, that this is the reason why I'm starting, then you feel happy and fulfilled when you are in the business. Your activities are aligned. You're not in conflict. So that's step 2. And we have all the templates and everything. That's we'll keep sharing on that. Number 3 is now know your win. That now you understand in detail that what does your win look like when you are in the business, which means that how much money do you need? How much, what kind of a brand do you want to be? How much time do you want to spend in the business? what kind of hours do you want to spend in the business, and what practices will make you, kind of a healthy business and keep you healthy as well, and what kind of a skill do you want to practice, because in one industry you can practice different kind of skills, and your business, if it's a reflection of what you want to learn, it's always fulfilling, for example. And then you look at number 4, know your clients win, which means that what is the big problem that you want to solve? What kind of industry detail do you have? What is the growth in the industry? And what are the participants looking for? Those are your clients. And what are the needs of the employees in this industry? So because if we know this, it is easier to set up the business in a long-term way. The foundation will be, strong foundation, because you understand why people are in this industry. Why are they there? Because you want to serve them, whether they are employees or your participants, for example, as a client. And step 5 is now, once you understand why you are in the business, when you understand why your clients are in the business, for example, now you create the very first step is viability statements. Means now you understand what will be the startup cost, what will be the profit and loss look like in 3 years time, 5 years time, in 12 months time, when is the break even, what will be the balance sheet look like, for example, what kind of equipment you need, what kind of assets you need, what kind of motor vehicle do you need. So once you understand that, you can find out the viability statement. How many employees do you need? Or would you be working yourself? How much money do you need to break even? Number 2 is then understand the compliance and legal requirements. Do you need the NDS registration? Number 3 is what kind of a contracts, agreements you need. Number 4 is any IP or trademarks. Do you need any, to trademark anything you want? Insurances, lease, contracts. What is the risk management? What are the services that you want to, kind of serve? Because you can do so many things, but what do you want to serve? And who's your ideal client? And then funding plan, how would you fund it? So once you have this thing, then you are in the position to launch the right business. Then you're in the position to launch in a way that it's, you're clear and long term. And you don't have to answer every question before you start. It's just like knowing this question there and keep working on that. And even if in first 12 months, you are able to answer all those questions, you are more controlled. You can see things more clearly. And I, as I said, in my story, I used to be stuck and lost. Now I write down what makes it easier so that I can live proactively, so that I can help other people get unstuck and give them direction, for example. Once you understand that, then running a business is easier, because now you see the goal and you can align your activities towards that goal. You can manage the business through scorecards, right? Okay, how many clients are you serving now? What's scorecard on money, scorecard on time? How much time are you spending on that? So this way, 7th step is then you celebrate your journey. Just I know it's a very hard industry, NDIS. You look after other people's fulfillment all the time, and step 7 is where you celebrate that you're doing good thing, and learn from that mistakes we do every day, and help your team to, because your team needs your vision. Your team needs that your direction, that how if you're not with the participant, but they can do the same care like you, and even better sometimes, because as a business owner, we need to look after 18 departments where when you have a person, a team working, team member with you, they can give the full attention to look after the participant. And that's an opportunity. That's how, we are grateful for that we have a life where we can make an impact in someone else's life through our business, where we can create money as well as a fulfillment for ourselves and for other people.
think those 7 steps are they make so much sense. And I was very lucky to have a great business mentor at the start who guided me through some of those steps that I wouldn't have come to on my own, because I see it all the time. I want to go out on my own. I want to be a sole trader. What do I do now? I'll get an ABN. Okay, and off we go. And people skip all those steps of like, why am I doing it? Who do I want to serve? How do I want to serve them? What do I need from this? And everything you just said, I think that's such a great foundation. If you're going to start a business, it gets you really clear on where you want to head, and it keeps you kind of on course as you're going through. So I'm excited to read your book, and I know other people are too. So I'm going to put the link. I'll put the link in here. The link is also in our Facebook group, and I'll pop the link wherever we are on the socials. I'll stick the link there, and you can also follow along with NexZen Accounting as well. Yeah, so you'll be able to find it. Bruce says, can we buy it on Amazon?
Yeah, it'll be launched on 6th of November. It will be on Amazon after that. Yes, great. Thank you. It will be.
Awesome. Yeah,
and
very
if you join our community now, I'm sharing a lot of my personal stories from now to 6th of November. And again, I've dedicated my whole life. I'll be, whatever I learn, I would share. My aim in my life is to help 15,100 people achieve financial freedom, as well as a life where we don't need to be just feeling like, work is work and life is different. It's just, it's part of who we are, and we can achieve a good life as well as financial freedom.
Well, that's an amazing goal. I'd like to be one of those 15,100, please, if possible. One more question. Julia Parker. Hi, Julia. She says, I thought it cost money to register for GST.
No, if you register by yourself, you can do it free of cost. There's no cost to register for GST.
Same for ABN. I see lots of companies come up to assist getting your ABN, and they're usually around $90 to $120. That's free to go through the government website and do it yourself. So yeah, do that yourself and save $100.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing all that information, about finances and accounting, but also your personal story and your book. I'm excited to get a hold of it and read it. And I know it's probably not ideal. You're in India right now, but I really appreciate you making the time to come and chat to everybody. It's been great. So thank you. I just wanted to finish off by reminding everyone to please visit our website, sign up for Sparks Academy, sparksacademy.com.au. We're going to be covering finding and managing clients on Thursday at 8 p.m. So that's our topic for the live, finding and managing clients. And we're going to share a lot of information about how to best go about that, because that's something that comes up a lot too. So really excited to have everybody there. Thank you so much again, Mukesh. Really, really appreciate it. We're getting a lot of thank yous through on the comments.
Thank you, everyone. I'm grateful again. My apologies for the start, but I'm happy that we got connected. Thank you.
We got there in the end, and hopefully we can do another live session at the end of October, beginning of November. So keep an eye out for that in the inbox, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Mukesh. Thank you. Bye, everyone.